our family fun Christmas gift guide. I'm Sam from Anything Goes Lifestyle. I'd like to welcome back our AGM man Chris, who's here to help us talk through some games today.
Thanks for having me back again.
No problem at all. So our family fun Christmas game ideas are perfect as Christmas gifts, or they're just brilliant to have for the family to play on Christmas Day. Now, board games feature quite heavily at Christmas time. It's a great way to kind of connect as a family, spend some quality time together, and just have a little bit of fun. Now, in my house, Trivial Pursuit was quite a core game that we'd play almost every Christmas.
Yeah.
What about you? What games did you play?
Yeah, Monopoly, Game of Life, sort of those traditional board games that have been around for a very long time tend to be the ones that always get brought out every year.
Oh, now Monopoly has a bit of a bad reputation, especially when it comes to Christmas and family fallouts. We want to avoid that at all cost. So we've put together some ideas that are perfect for the family without causing any arguments.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had the pleasure of trying all three of these games, and even being a very competitive person, I think these are much more palatable and less likely to cause frustration and arguments amongst people.
So let's take a look at why they make great games. Let's start with Disney Codenames.
Yeah, so Disney Codenames, if you've not played it before, Codenames is a game that's been available for quite a while now, and obviously the Disney element is just a new spin on the game. The idea behind Codenames, it's a word game, so you put forward a grid of cards, usually 4x4 or 5x5, and the idea is you're meant to be giving clues to get people on your team to pick certain names on that, certain words on that grid, without sort of identifying ones that the opposite team are trying to get, or worst of all, picking the one word that would instantly end the game and cause you to lose. So it's a lot of creative thinking involved, because you're having to think about guiding people towards certain words with clues of your own, without sort of, you're also thinking about what not to do as well as what to do. So it's quite a clever idea. We've played the original Codenames quite a few times,
Yeah, many times.
And obviously the Disney theme is just putting an extra spin on it that I really like, because it allows younger people to get involved.
Absolutely, it just makes it much more accessible for a younger generation to kind of start playing. Now the game is targeted at 8 and up, but this version of Codenames, unlike the original, which is just based on words and connecting those elements, Disney Codenames has the word side of it, but equally on the other side you have the pictures. So I think it is actually really accessible to younger children. They could perhaps play maybe like a lighter version that you could perhaps play Snap to, and certainly it will help children to develop their vocabulary. So it's really great for that.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is, as someone who's played Codenames a lot, and I've seen a lot of Disney movies, I quite like it, but who doesn't like a bit of Disney? I thought this would be really easy and really straightforward, but actually, because the Disney universe is so big, you kind of forget how many characters and how many movies there are. And actually it does become quite taxing, because there are people in there that you kind of think, I kind of half recognise them, or I think I know what they're from. And of course that makes it a little more difficult to give people clues to get them towards something that you kind of only half know yourself. So that's where the challenge comes in. It's a really creative game and a really good one to kind of bring people together, I think, over Christmas.
Yeah, and equally there's lots of crossover with the movies. So if, like, for example, you've got Peter Pan and Moana, you wouldn't think there was much crossover there at all, but there is a lot of sea theme associated with it. You've got the ships and water. So when we were kind of playing it, you kind of would miss those elements of it. So you might say boat and inadvertently give a clue away to another team. So it was just really interesting from an adult perspective. And that's why we think it makes for a fun game, because even for adults it's still quite challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a very, very creative game.
Moving on, we're going to take a look at Hughes and Cues. Now this was a really, really interesting game when we were trying it out. We weren't sure quite what to expect. The premise is that it is a game of colour, and you have to try and communicate to your team members the colour that you can see on a card. Now you can only do that initially with one word.
That's right.
And so it's quite interesting to kind of see what people kind of come up with in that one word.
Yeah, I mean, so this game's it's an original game by OP Games. Obviously, the other one was a spin-off of a game that already existed. And you're absolutely right. It's amazing when you sort of use just a simple word that we would all recognise and all know. So if I was to use the word ocean, it's amazing how different the range of colours people picture. when they think of the word ocean. So they might think of a kind of sort of almost a whitey blue with the wash of the sea kind of rocking up against the rocks, or a very deep dark blue if you're in the middle of the ocean, or almost a greeny colour.
Like Mediterranean kind of style sea.
Yeah, or actually where we live, arguably maybe a bit of a brown, you don't know, but there's this whole range of things that people pick, and so actually trying to give a very simple clue that guides somebody to a very specific colour is quite a hard thing to do. And I was surprised. I honestly thought when you were using words like lemon, everybody would be picking the same few boxes on the board of yellow, but
it was really interesting to kind of see, like the spectrum people were choosing. And actually, as the game went on, everyone was getting much more creative with the words to describe the colours. Now you get 2 rounds as well. So you have the one where you can say one word, and then you have a second round where you can say 2 words.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it would just sort of extend from the first round. So for example, I used mustard in round 1, and then said French mustard in the second one to kind of describe that colour of it.
Yeah.
So it was initially it was kind of a bit of getting used to, wasn't it? It was kind of like looking at the swatch of colour that you were given, choosing your colour, and then exploring how can I get people to kind of hone in on it.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty for me is how simple this game is. It's very straightforward. Everybody understands colour, and everybody can get a picture in their mind when they're given a simple word to describe. It's all, again, the best ideas are the simple ideas. You could almost argue that the people that created this went and got a Dulux palette chart and said, how can I make this fun? And they really have.
They really did.
It's
like
really
initially
strange.
we're like, we weren't sure how it was going to play out, particularly as we were trying it virtually. But as I say, everyone got just really into it and was getting super creative with the words to help describe it. And it was so much fun in the end.
It really was. I enjoyed it. So the way it, just to be clear on the way it actually works, you put your guesses down on a board, and they have like a little scoring grid that you place down. So obviously the closer you are to the colour that's trying to be described by the guesser, by the describer, then you will get more points for the closer that you are. But the thing that's nice about this one as well is actually the guesser will get rewarded for the more people that are closer to their guess too. So it's got this weird kind of competitive but also team element, if you know what I mean, where actually everyone kind of needs to help each other to get points, and if you don't, then you're not going to go very far very fast. So it's this weird kind of balance between being competitive but also cooperative that I really like about this one.
And the absolute beauty of it is there's zero barrier to entry. Anyone can play this. There's no skill level involved whatsoever. And unlike some of the other games we're sharing with you today, which is themed, it doesn't have that element of it. So it literally can apply to anybody, young and old. Everyone can kind of get involved in that one. So it's tons and tons of fun.
Absolutely.
We actually have one of the Hughes and Cues to give away on site. So be sure to check that out.
Very good.
And then finally, we'd like to introduce you to the Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle Cooperative Deck Game. Now, this was, as soon as we, were kind of researching the different games and things, this really stuck out to us. We're, pretty big Harry Potter fans, having watched all the movies, read all the books, gone to Harry Potter World and completely immersed ourselves in the world. What is brilliant about this is it kind of just takes that further. So it allows you to kind of live through the series of Harry Potter. It quite literally starts in movie 1, and you play some of your favourite characters. You could be Harry, Hermione, Ron or Neville. And you can basically take on some of the Death Eaters and even Voldemort himself. And so it's a cooperative game. You do work together to kind of defeat your enemies.
Yeah, and like you said, you almost play through the story. So the idea is, it's called a cooperative deck building game. So the idea is that the longer you play, the more powerful your characters become. And it's a little bit kind of, Dungeons and Dragons-y in that element. So that sort of plays to the nerd within me who likes those kind of adventure type stories.
But for someone who actually generally isn't
Avoids
a
those
fan of
things.
strategy games, this was really, really engaging and actually really quite simple to kind of grasp.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, the only element they've taken from those kind of adventure fantasy type games is the building up of strength over time and kind of leveling up not really leveling up characters, but improving your characters. So like you said, because you move through the stories, we've only played a couple of them, but the early ones you're taking on, is it Professor Quirrell from the first film, and every time you beat a character, your guys become a little more advanced, so you don't, you're not just diving in and taking on the big guys straight away. You really have to play through the story and build that power, build that legacy, and that gets you excited for actually winning the game, which is nice, because it's not straightforward and it's not easy and it's not a guaranteed win, if that makes sense. So
and you carry it through, so what you learn from each level you kind of carry through to the next levels with you. The powers kind of remain, and you, as Chris said, you just get stronger and stronger. So it's a really, really interactive game. It's one that can kind of be picked up and put down, and actually even it's sort of tackling through the different stages, it doesn't take overly long. Unlike some strategy games which can take hours and hours and hours, this generally only takes sort of between 30 minutes and an hour.
it's quite simple to understand as well. You're right.
Really
That's the key thing, is often with some of these sort of more complex games, I mean, you can see the size of the box. This is a fairly hefty game. You will normally end up with an instruction book that's kind of pages and pages thick. Actually, you've got 4 or 5 pages of things that you can keep referencing as you're playing. It's not very hard to understand. It is very easy to pick up and sort of get going with. The real challenge comes in thinking about what to do when you're playing it, rather than understanding how to play it, which I think is always important with these kind of things.
Absolutely. So it does generally will appeal to anyone that is Harry Potter into Harry Potter, not necessarily Harry Potter obsessed. If they've watched any of the movies, then they will take joy in actually trying to overcome Voldemort themselves. And I think even if they're not overly familiar with Harry Potter, certainly, if the children want to kind of take it round to play with their grandparents on Christmas Day, they'll really enjoy kind of just getting involved and kind of taking part and just kind of working together.
And I think it's worth noting that the manufacturer of these, again, it's OP Games. I think they have lots of different sort of themed versions of this. Not exactly the same game, but they've got ones for different brands and different things. So if Harry Potter isn't your thing, you will probably find something from them that is.
Absolutely. Now, I would also say, do not forget the treats when it comes to some family fun. It's always good to kind of have some snacks on by. And Cadbury's have shared with us some of their fantastic selections with us. They do have the Cadbury's Dairy Milk box. Now, this is a fantastic item to have on hand for when you're playing board games, because they are individually wrapped chocolates, including the chunky dairy milk, whole nut and caramel. So there's something for everyone in there. And launched this for Christmas is the limited edition Snowy Fingers. So you have milk chocolate and white chocolate on either side. It's always good to kind of have some treats on side, and we'll be sending out some of these with the winner of our Hughes and Cue board game.
That's good. The only issue is they're a little more-ish. But,
they'll be demolished by the time we finish one of the games.
That's what Christmas is all about, right?
Absolutely. Now, if you're interested in finding out any more about these games, you can find links to them in the description of this video. You can also see our extensive gift ideas on the website. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're able to like, comment, share and subscribe, we would really appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Since we filmed our family fun game ideas, we were sent a couple of additional games from Hasbro to try, which we wanted to share with you. So we kind of incorporated it into the video, so things might look a little bit differently, but the theme is still the same. One of the games that they sent us is Monopoly for Sore Losers. Now, we mentioned at the start of the video that Monopoly is often a contested game in a household at Christmas, and it's a bit of a risk to play because it can cause a lot of fallouts. Now, if that's the case in your household, but you do like playing Monopoly, well, you're going to love Sore Losers. We gave this a try a couple of days ago, and it was certainly an interesting game. I love playing Monopoly. That might be because I always win at it. Chris never gets a look in at all. but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy all aspects of playing Monopoly. So I was really interested to try this version, and Chris especially was too, considering he can't ever get a win. The premise of Sore Losers is that even when things look bad and dire and there's no hope of winning, you can still turn it around. And that is absolutely the case with this game. There were so many highs and lows during the course of us playing it, Chris, I've never seen him like that in a board game, because often with Monopoly, as I say, it gets to a point where it doesn't feel like there is any hope that you are going to win the game, and so you kind of lose a bit of interest. You're just kind of playing it until the other player just can't wait for it to end. So it was really, really interesting to see him get really enthusiastic and really excited and a little bit boasty when playing this game. I'll let you talk through how it works.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of the game now. I am the definition of a sore loser. I don't like losing,
and he pouts hard.
And predictably, I'm losing this game, unfortunately, which is not good. But the best thing about this game is the worse your luck, the more bad luck you have, you get given something called a sore loser token. Now, a sore loser token is gained every time something bad happens to you. So maybe you go to jail, maybe you have to pay rent, something along those lines. I now have 4 sore loser tokens.
And it's your turn.
And it's my turn. So what I can do is I can trade these 4 sore loser tokens to change my token, which is actually a sinking ship as opposed to the usual ship.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting element of this game, is that everything is centred around the bad luck side of things. So I'm the car, as always, I'm always the car, and I have my tyre clamped. So it just kind of like is really immersive. Every element has been thought about with the sore loser aspect.
Absolutely. So because I've traded in my sore loser tokens, I can now change my sinking ship to Mr. Monopoly. And Mr. Monopoly is a very powerful character. So
very, very powerful.
Absolutely. So I take my turn like normal. I'll roll a dice, and I got an 8. As it happens, I didn't get a double 4, but had I rolled a double, that would have allowed me to put a house anywhere I want on the board. One of my properties, one of your properties, an unowned property.
Yeah, whether you own it or not.
You can put a house down. I can't this time, but I can move 8 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as it happens, I've landed exactly where Sam's character is. Now, this is a great thing for me because I can now start to turn things around in a couple of ways. Thing number 1 is I can take any one of her properties that I want. So I'm going to take the station because that gets me closer to completing my set of stations. Probably one of the reasons I always lose.
Never go just after the stations.
It also means she can't move until I move off of that space. So actually I get 2 goes instead of the usual 1 because effectively I've trapped her. She's stuck under there. The other thing that's great while I'm Mr. Monopoly is any spaces that I land on that would mean that I would have to pay rent to Sam, she actually has to pay me. So he is a really powerful character, and it's a really good way of turning the game around and spinning it to your advantage.
That's exactly what I thought it was great about it, is that despite, even if you think you're going to be losing and you're in a losing position, you can absolutely turn it around with one go with Mr. Monopoly. You know, for me to be able to take Mr. Monopoly, I still need to earn an additional 2 tokens before I can even take the place. And I think that was what made the game really, really exciting. It really does change it up. And additionally, the way that this game ends is that once all the properties have been purchased, you don't even need to have them hoteled or, you know, any aspect of that. Once all of the properties have been owned and you reach go, that is the end of the game, and it's who has the most cash at the end of it. So you can really kind of like manipulate or trick the other person if you know the game is coming to sort of an end, and you can absolutely smash it out of the park and really steal it right up close to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we as I say, when we played the other day, you were quite far in front, I think, going into even the last turn, and it actually ended quite close. It was only a couple of £100 difference. I still lost, predictably, But you know, it was a good fun and a really nice twist on the game. You're not sat here for hours watching someone milk all your money away and all your property away until you've got nothing left. You know, everyone can have a laugh, everyone can have good fun, and you know, even if you're winning, bad stuff's still going to happen to you, which is you know, what I quite like. That's where I was getting excited, was knowing that even though Sam was beating me, it only needed one turn of good luck for me to stand a chance again.
Oh, and he would brag about it no end. It would be like, it would be in my face, and oh, Mr. Monopoly, rah, 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 rah. And then I'd very quickly steal it from him again. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a reinvigorated game of Monopoly, and I think it will certainly lead to far less fallouts than the traditional game. Another game we have to share with you from Hasbro is the Operation Pet Scan. This is an adaptation of the classic Operation game focusing on the pet, but instead of using pliers to dig out the various bones and bits and pieces within the person, we use a magnet to draw out the various elements from our pet pooch named Rex-Ray.
Yeah, so he's got a bunch of stuff that he can eat. So I think this one's a broken mobile phone, there's socks, there's pants, there's chocolate.
Things he definitely should not be eating.
Yeah, there's even his own poop. And it's quite simple really. You just feed it through the mouth. You could feed a couple of things if you want to. And then you have to use, you know, kind of similar to the old school, if you remember the wire with the alarm that goes off if you touch it, you just have to kind of guide.
And as you can see, as you can hear, you know, it basically is like, this isn't happy for the dog's tummy, we need to get it out of him.
Yeah, and if you get it right, then you should be able to get it all the way through out of his bum.
And he's certainly very pleased with that result.
Yeah.
But of course, some pieces are easier than others to get through. And as Chris said, it will buzz when it doesn't work, or it can actually end up coming straight through him, which we don't want. So it's a really, really fun and interactive game for children. Although aimed at children, I think adults, it's one of those games where if an adult sees someone play, they're like, oh, I could do this, and then they'll have a play with it, can't quite get it, and playing it a couple of times. Chris has been trying to play it for a couple of times.
It's really frustrating when it doesn't work. I'm kind of glad that I got it through first time then, because it can be really annoying if you can't get it. You blame the magnet, you blame the game, you blame his nose, you blame everything about this thing, except yourself, and of course the only person that's doing it wrong is you. So
that would be the definite fun element for adults if they're playing along. But yeah, tons and tons of fun for kids, and this is a great adaptation of the classic game we all know and love. So yeah, I think this would make for a fantastic gift and a little game, especially if you're trying to get them out from under your toes when you're making Christmas dinner or something.
Yeah, you keep people occupied for a while.
Yeah, well, we hope you liked these additional games we had to share with you. As mentioned, all the details are in the description. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.